Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. And we're on with a person that, man, I read his book and I follow him. I love when somebody gets into the mindset. So, Dr. Saul Miller, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And then we'll get into our podcast.
Sure. I'm Saul Miller. I'm a sport and performance psychologist. We're all performers, so in effect, we serve everybody and just facilitating, helping people to be the best they can be.
Yeah, we see more, I think, in the last few years about that mindset and how many people are performing at a higher level when they get it right. What does it mean when somebody says that they have a sports psychiatrist or psychologist that's working with them? What does that mean? Are they like every month working with them, or how does that process work so our
I
community
think
better
I
understand?
think, yeah, Peter, I think it's pretty much an individual thing. I know when I'm working with clients, and most of my clients are in sport, I'd say 80% are athletes. And, there's a tremendous challenge and pressure to perform, but we're all performers. I mean, I have business clients, I have artists, musicians, actors. When you have to audition for some role, it's very pressure filled. And even though you're talented, the way you project your talent, the way you present your talent is affected by your focus, your emotions. And so normally when I'm working with somebody, I ask for just a 2 or 3 commitment to 2 or 3 session introduction. That's it. And in that period of time, I give them homework. I give them some exercises to work on in terms of focusing, in terms of emotional management. And for some, that's it. I mean, they've got a baseline, they work with that, and they're off. For others, I mean, I've worked with one professional athlete I worked with for almost 12 years, and several times during the season, a number of times during the season, he would get in touch and we would just sharpen the edge or tweak something. And, he once said to me, I really find it beneficial talking with you. You're not my coach, you're not my dad, and you're not my wife. So, it was somebody to just bounce some ideas off of and just to, as I say, tweak these 3 things: your focus, your emotional management, and your attitude.
What do you think for athletes? What do you think gets them better focus? Is there a process, a framework? How does a person get that to perform at a high level?
Well, I mean, sometimes, it just evolves through the way one is raised, the way one is brought up, and, one's experience as they go through the various levels of challenge that life presents.
Mhm.
But I think there's a form that I work with people, which, first I'd like to explain to them that the mind is this amazing supercomputer thinking thousands of thoughts a day. And you're the boss. If you don't like the programs that are running through there, you've got to change the program. And so we work with how people talk to themselves. We look at what are their goals, and then how do you talk to yourself, and then we talk about we look at what are the feelings that come into your being. Do they help you or do they inhibit you or hinder you? And really, it comes down, it's very simple. It comes down to me, to love and fear. These are the core human emotions. When we love something, we expand, we move into it. I love this. When we fear it, we tighten, we contract. And oftentimes, we're bringing this fear or anxiety mindset into whatever it is we do. And as a golfer, if you stand up at the tee or just on the fairway about to make a shot. And, there's a little bit of apprehension in there. It
Mhm.
just interferes with the natural flow of the shot. Everybody's working on swing mechanics, and these things are important. But what's also important is to be free and to be, I love to make this shot. You can hit a great shot and end up in a terrible lie, end up in a bunker, end up in a divot in the grass. And how you react to that, like one response is like, oh my God, a terrible lie. Another response is, here's a great shot, great chance to make a good shot from a bad lie. It's just how you respond to things predisposes you to perform well in life.
Yeah, I love that. You've written 10 books, and you've obviously, your whole career has been devoted to what you just described. Are you seeing anything that has changed in the last year or two that has surprised you when it comes to performance?
Um, I don't know in the last year or two, but certainly in recent years, there's become a greater and greater awareness that I have to manage my mind. Sports psychology, performance psychology has become more widely accepted, and it's more evident out there. So people are, I think, are becoming more aware they have to manage their thinking and their feelings, and that they have the capability to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
What,
mean,
what,
COVID was a very unfortunate experience for everyone, really. It really shut people down. It was a message to tighten up, and it created a great deal of fear, and it suppressed growth. I think for young people it was even more inhibiting kind of thing, because they were shut down at a time when you're really expanding your awareness and your skills.
Mhm.
So but you know life is a great adventure, and that's what it is.
Yeah. When you started out, what got you interested in this part of, I mean, the mind is an incredible thing, and I think we're discovering more and more about how we can perform at a higher level. What got you interested in the beginning stages of your career?
um well, it is interesting. I mean, I've long been interested in psychology, and I was teaching and running the counseling center at Mississippi State, and the tennis coach came in, and an interesting man. He had been in the military for some time, and he had seen a lot of things done in the military with mind control, and so he approached me um, to start working with the tennis team. And it's interesting because I I had studied martial arts, and I had been doing yoga and a lot of Eastern disciplines. And the combination of psychology, Eastern disciplines, and my own history in sport. I mean, I played football from through high school and college. I played a lot of sports. And I it just was a natural to apply these different elements together to helping people to perform well. And what was, I guess, the cement that sealed the deal was the real success that we had early on, just working with these basic elements of positive thought, positive imagery. I mean, imagination, Einstein said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. And so creating your imagination, seeing what you want to create, talking to yourself, I can do this, creating feelings that's supporting you doing it. So early on, we just were getting really remarkable results, excellent results. And it just fueled my passion to continue doing this and develop the skills to do it even more effectively.
What 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 excites you the most when you're working with people? And, is there anything that you are looking for breakthroughs and things that excite you when you make that connection and they level up and they perform at a higher level. What excites you when you're seeing those kind of, you know, transformations
Well, I
or
mean, helping people to excel is just a lovely thing to be able to do.
Mhm,
And recently, I think we had talked off the podcast.
mhm,
Recently, I was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame here in British Columbia,
mhm,
and in giving a little talk about it, I said that for the past almost half a century, I've been working with people to helping them to excel, and we've done this here in Canada, we've done it in the US, we've done it internationally in Europe, and so all over the world. And it's been really, really enjoyable. It's been remarkable, some of the things that we've seen and accomplished. But what I wanted to say is if one is able to have a career doing what they truly enjoy doing,
mm,
I think they're really blessed. And I've really been fortunate to be able to do that.
mm,
So it's like, people say, would you retire? Why? When you ask, what's the rewards in a sense, it's just seeing people feeling good about themselves.
mhm,
I mean, if you're just doing traditional psychological counseling, that's the goal, to help people to feel better about themselves and be independent. But in the world of performance, um, it's the same thing. I working with a young guy, a goalie, a hockey goalie, and a lot of pressure. And when he plays well, he feels better about himself, and when he doesn't feel good about himself. And it's like helping him to understand techniques to perform better, but
mm,
also to learn that you know he's a good person. And it's a funny thing, Pete, because um, if I'm talking to somebody and one of the homework assignments is um, to look in the mirror and every morning you're brushing your teeth and to say I'm a good goalie and to know 4 or 5 reasons why you're good. And so people can get that whether they're a golfer, a soccer player, hockey player, tennis, whatever it is.
mhm,
But if I ask them, and when I ask them, are you a good person? For some, like an adolescent boy, it's a stunner. It's like, yeah, like they hadn't thought about it. And I said, every week or two, look in the mirror and say, I'm a good person, and know why. Why are you a good person? And
mm,
most people respond, they say, well, I'm kind to people. And I say, do you work hard at what's important? Yeah, I have integrity. You work hard at what's important. I'm honest most of the time. And so it's building up a sense. We don't talk to ourselves that way.
mhm.
And it's been interesting because I find adolescent boys, are more stunned by the question than adolescent girls.
Really? You
Yeah.
see the difference, huh?
Yeah. You ask, as I say, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old boy, are you a good person? It's like, yeah, like they hadn't thought about it. But
Yeah.
why not think about it? Why not think about being a good person and what it takes? We might think about what it takes to be a good tennis player, but think about what it takes to be a good person.
Yeah, I like that. And AI has changed a lot that's going on in
That's true.
TikTok videos. Our attention span is shrinking over time.
Yes.
What do you like when you're working with your clients? And we're born to create, but we've been lulled into consumption, and we're not critically thinking like we used to. How do you get them to shift back into that creative mode that makes us so excited, alive, really? But because I see the difference when people, I'll ask them, how much TV do you watch? Or are you on TikTok and these other, and I can almost see the demeanor of the person when they're saying they're consuming a lot versus creating. Have you seen any difference that you have to work with them now because attention span and distractions are out there that maybe weren't there 10 years ago?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think it's important to underline the importance of doing these disciplines that we work with, the positive self-talk, the imagery, the breathing work I do to manage emotions, because there are so many more distractions, because
Mhm.
there are so many pulls at one's attention in different ways. So it's important to do these things. Um, I think it gives you a little more control.
Hmm. Personal growth, we all want it. What how do you keep growing, and what do you use? Are you reading anything? Do you have people that are pouring into your life that has helped you to continue to grow?
Well, I think that the idea of working with people, new people all the time, that keeps you alive and in the moment.
Mm,
And I must admit, I'm also one of these people who ends up spending a little more time with social media and AI type stuff, and am reading much less. So I mean, I can experience what others are experiencing in that regard. But I think just working with new clients all the time, some who are professional at performing at the highest level,
mhm.
and some who are just kids, just kind of starting out and having dreams. There's a little boy the other day, and being in Canada now, a lot of my clients are hockey related at this time of year. And I often ask at the beginning, or not often, I routinely ask at the beginning, what is your goal? And you're talking to a 13-year-old, and they might say, well, I want to play in the NHL, I want to play at the highest level. This little kid said, I want to go into the NHL Hall of Fame. I thought, like,
That
wow.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, it keeps me alive to work with people who have these dreams and goals, and want to excel at the highest level. Yeah.
What do you think parents have as far as influence on their kids when it comes to performing and being a top athlete? What have you seen over the years?
um, well, if I could tweak the question a little bit, if I was to say, what is the most important thing that a parent can give a child who, if he or she wants to excel, perform at the highest level? And
Mhm.
I would unquestionably say it's love your child.
Mm,
You know, love and support them. Just, I mean, you do support them. Sport has become very expensive in many areas, depending on what youngsters are doing,
mhm,
and so you're supporting them that way. But love is the one gift that you can give. You encourage them. You model for them the thing about working hard and having good habits. That's obviously it's really important, but love them. So
mm,
they played well, and I love you. They played poorly. I love you. That's the way the game goes. So I think that's the greatest gift that a parent can give. Give the child appropriate discipline. I mean, appropriate feedback. Model good behavior. Don't say do this and you do something else.
mhm.
Um, and love them.
That's great.
Pretty
You
basic stuff, I think.
Yeah, it is basic, but it's not all. We used to say, well, we still say it, common sense. Common sense is not always common practice
Right.
because
That's
you know,
very good.
you know that it makes sense, but we don't always see it. You've written 10 books. Which one, and this might be one of those loaded, like you say, You have 10 kids. Which is your favorite kid? What has been your favorite book that you wrote that you got the most satisfaction from?
Well, um, I like Performing Under Pressure because it was an all-encompassing kind of book about how, and we're all performers, can you imagine a single mom with a couple of kids trying to earn enough to support the family and everything? Wow. I mean, she's performing at the highest levels just to
Mhm,
survive and nurture and everything else. So we're all performers. I like that book. The book that's been most successful has been Hockey Tough, a winning mental game, probably because it's a very good book, has a lot of good examples. Um, I have a formula in writing books where I outline my approach to it, and then I bring in experts in the field to comment and support these ideas. I mean, you as a very knowledgeable golf guy could see that in my golf book. Again, there's the same fundamentals about right focus, right feeling, right attitude, and the techniques to do those things. And then bringing in, I work a lot with breathing, and if you have Tom Watson saying, when I learned to breathe, I learned to win.
mhm,
And, talking about how these pros exercise these various dimensions. So the formula is, explain how it works, the mind, the body works, introduce techniques, and then have the best in the world comment on things that support these techniques.
mhm,
And probably the I think the golf book is excellent and it's more recent than the hockey book, but the hockey book was the only book on the mental game of hockey.
Well,
And there were a number of books on the mental game of golf. So mine is just one of several. One of
hmm,
the better ones, but just one of several. Yeah.
yeah. What would you say? Like, I was always watching body language, especially on the
hmm
first tee and just through all the shot. What do you, when you're working with athletes, how important, and you're competing against somebody, how important is something like reading the body language of a person?
I think it depends a little bit on when you're competing against somebody, if you're talking about like in an individual sport, like say fencing. I do a lot of work now with fencing.
Mhm,
There it's important to read body language because you see opportunities or it predisposes you to respond in certain ways. But normally, I often ask my clients to pick an animal that would give you the feelings you'd want to have if you were performing great.
mhm,
And Pete, 98% of elite athletes, not little kids because they say different things, but 98% of elite athletes are picking predators.
mm,
And of that group, probably 80% are picking the big cats. They're picking tigers and lions and cheetahs and panthers and so on.
yes.
And I sometimes remind them when they start worrying about other things that the tiger doesn't care about that. The
Mm,
tiger. So it depends in the nature. Like if you're cueing too much about what's going on out there, sometimes be the hunter, be the tiger, focus specifically on what you want to create and achieve, and don't worry about. And that's it's one of the mistakes that coaches often make, especially those coaching youngsters or non-elite athletes.
mhm,
And that is they have negative eyes and they're hypercritical, and they can actually transform a predator into the prey. A kid who is a tiger, now he's afraid of making a mistake because he's going to incur the wrath of the coach, and then he becomes overly careful, too
mhm,
tight, too tense. And sometimes parents can do the same. And I remember one time years ago, my son was a wonderful baseball pitcher. And
mhm,
when he was, I mean, he played right through college, he was all conference and so on. But when he was a little leaguer, I coached a lot and I was catching in a practice. And these kids are, 11, 12 years old. And I don't recall if it was he or another boy was pitching, but the little boy at bat was afraid of the ball. And
Ooh.
so he, as the pitch would come, he'd kind of pull away and swing. And his father was watching and obviously was getting frustrated. And instead of, saying something that was encouraging or maybe pulling him out and helping in some regard, he said to him, your sister has a better swing than that.
Ooh.
And the little boy looked over at his dad and he said, no, she doesn't. So, like, he's still believing his father, and his father's giving him these very bad messages.
Mm.
So, again, how can we support and I think this idea of being the predator, being the hunter, you don't worry about all these peripheries. You don't worry too much. Of course, you listen to the coach, but you don't worry about trying to please him. Or you
Mm.
see a lot of athletes when they're playing and they know there's scouts in the stands. They start to worry about the scouts. They're giving their power away.
Mhm.
And so that's when I say, when you notice you're giving your power away, back to the breathing, draw the power to you. Stay with the power. So being overly focused on them can sometimes take your power.
Ooh, that's so good. We have pivots in our career. It's always like that failure to do something, but we pivot. Have you had anything in your career where you had to do that pivot and go in a different direction that allowed you to kind of grow through it or learn from it?
Well, I think I learned from every coach I work with. I learned from almost every client. So the pivot, maybe the pivot was I was a little more on a clinical path. I mean, I had spent a couple of years working in mental hospital and so on during my studies and development. And the sports thing was the pivot. I mean, it was,
Mm. Okay.
yeah, I mean, it was really following my passion. And it's interesting because I was thinking about it recently with this induction into the Sports Hall of Fame. I think when I was starting working with sport, I remember my mother saying to me, enough with the sports. And I hope she's looking down and saying, well, maybe I made a mistake
Maybe
there.
I wasn't. Yeah, exactly. That's so good. What's the next few years have for Saul? Like, what are you excited about? What are you moving into? Is there anything different that you're pursuing? Any angle? Anything since your induction in the Hall of Fame? Is there anything coming up that you're excited about that our
Well, as
communities?
I said, I get a lot of energy from clients and doing the work I do. I really love doing it, Pete. So I will continue
Mhm.
to do it. One thing that's a little different, I'm also a painter and an artist,
Mm.
and I'm just finishing a new book that will be coming out soon, called The Whimsical Art of Dr. Saul. And because for last 20 years, I've been a cartoonist for a small newspaper in the desert in California where I spend the winters.
Uh-huh.
And so The Whimsical Art of Dr. Saul, that book will be coming out in a few months. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
nice.
something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's have you back because I like to. Oops, we we lost. Something happened. Maybe a call came. I think a call's coming in, so he'll be back in just a second, and then we'll ask him a few more questions before we go. I'm pretty sure this is a phone call. So, so if you come back, we'll welcome you back. For some reason we don't. Today's been a really crazy day. I've had a few. Oh, there's a mute button on there, but the picture went. Hopefully, we'll get you back. We'll wait a couple more seconds, and I know you can search. Oops, let me see if that's no, that's different. I was um okay. That's not me. Okay. I was just seeing here. I'm checking out. So Saul, if you come back, we'll wind down with one more question. If not, we will leave our audience and our community hanging for your last or your next book. We never say last, your next book. The Whimsical Art of Saul Miller. Yeah, I love that. So, Saul, looks like for some reason we've lost you. So we're gonna just I won't give you your final thoughts because I can't. But I want to thank you for being on the phone and being on this podcast. We appreciate it. If you are out there and you want to get access to any of Saul's books, they're available, and just you can AI search them and you can see the list of books that he has available, and you can get access to them. And hopefully, we'll get them back here in a couple months as he's releasing his book. So we want to thank you. Um, be bold, make an impact, and have fun.